Hey guys, welcome back and welcome to the first lesson in the first module. Before we get started, on every single video you ever see me publish, you're going to see a risk warning. So go ahead and pause the video right now and read through the risk warning. Ultimately, the risk warning is stating that I'm not a licensed securities broker, dealer, or an investment advisor. So what does that mean? That means that this course is for educational purposes only. What you decide to do with what you learn in this course is entirely up to you. When you open up a live trading account and you start placing trades, the outcome of those trades are solely your responsibility. Next, I want to congratulate you again. You guys all made an investment in improving yourself and your knowledge of trading, whether that's to ultimately make this a full-time career, or maybe you're already trading full-time and you're looking for another edge. Whatever it might be, I want to commend you on the investment and the effort that you're putting in. Next, there's a questionnaire located over to the left in the resources tab. It's also in the toolbox. I can't take full credit for the questionnaire, as a lot of the questions in it come from Mark Douglas's book, Trading in the Zone. But I think it'll be extremely beneficial for you to fill out the questionnaire now. And then once you've completed the course in its entirety and probably sim traded for a few weeks, to go back and retake the questionnaire. I've actually taken it several times throughout my career, and it's interesting when I sit back and reflect how some of my answers have changed over time. And when you're answering it, there is no right or wrong answer. So go ahead and get that filled out. Next, my story. I grew up in the Midwest. I began my trading career in 2003 at Great Point Capital. At the time, it was the second largest proprietary equity firm in the United States. And 99% of the traders there, we had about 200 of us, I would say, give or take at any given time. 99% of us were level 2 traders. A level 2 quote basically shows you all the bids and all the asks and the size associated with them, as well as market depth. So you can see more than just the inside market. And back then, what we used to do was we would focus on several stocks, every trader would, and begin to learn how the major players would come in and buy when they were buying or sell when they were selling, and try to jump in and get in when they're getting in and get out before they get out. It goes a lot more in depth than that, but for the purpose of this course, you really don't need to know about it. Ultimately, what ended up changing was around 2008 or so, about half of the volume being traded in the market was done by algorithms. So it made it very difficult, if not impossible at times, to read the level 2 and really understand what was going on, as an algorithm can put in an order and cancel it immediately and never fill, and you see that happen all day long, and it kind of just became mumbo jumbo and really hard to understand, and it kind of took away from the edge. I was still making money then, but I had kind of seen the writing on the wall, and I knew that I either had to come up with a new strategy or whatever it might be. I knew I had to do something because my career was dwindling, and would have been over if I didn't kind of reinvent myself. The next step was in 2008, I think it was in spring. I actually had worked on an algorithm that took advantage of an arbitrage opportunity that used to exist in the currency markets during major economic news releases. I did really well with that for about a year, but ultimately what ended up happening was a lot of the brokers either still started really widening their spreads during any economic news release, or they would ban my account and not let me trade there anymore. A lot of the retail brokers back then are what you would call a bucket shop, meaning that they weren't actually placing any orders. They were assuming that 90% of the people were going to lose their money, so they were taking fictitious orders and never filling them, and then when the trader would ultimately lose the money, they just kept that money. From there, once that opportunity dried up, I was kind of in a rut for a while. I really had to find a new way, or a new system to trade. And the problem was I had been an order flow trader virtually since I started trading. So it's not like I was really well versed on, getting into any option strategies or, virtually any other strategy other than trading order flow. So I worked on it, and I worked on my system, and it's been something that's really developed probably over the last since I began trading, but really over the last 8 or 9 years. to what I have today. So the reason why I bring that up is trading is like any other business. Nothing's going to last forever. I'm sure that there's going to be market changes and transitions in the markets that I can't foresee right now that will happen. And, it might be 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road, but eventually you're going to have to continue to educate yourself and adapt to what the market throws at you. An example of that is all of the floor traders, once everything began to go electronic, a lot of the volume was taken away from the floors. And really the edge of anybody trading on the floor was being on the floor and knowing what players were doing what. So just like that transition happened in the trading industry, I'm sure there will be more to come. So you constantly need to be trying to improve yourself and educating yourself and be on the lookout for future transitions in the markets. How you're going to get the most out of this training. The first rule I have, and it's one of the only rules I have, is zero negativity. There is no room in trading, especially what portion of your success or failure is tied to the psychology aspect of trading. There's no room for negativity. A lot of people invested a large sum of money to be part of this course, and I'm not going to allow somebody's pessimism or their negative attitude affect anybody else taking this course. There's just no place for it, so don't do it. Second, zero politics. I'm happy to have politics, discussions if we weren't part of this group, but this group is about trading, and that's what we're here to do, is to teach you more about trading, teach you my strategy, and ultimately to help you become a better trader. So that's the focus, and that's the only focus. Next, I think a valid question is, why did I start Jumpstart Trading? I'm such a great trader. I've been doing this for 15 years. Why would I start it? And ultimately, the honest answer is, one of the things that I missed the most when I left Great Point was the camaraderie and the competitiveness that came from being on a trading floor. Trading is a very isolated job. The majority of my days are sat in front of a computer, focused, staring at the screen, and I'm not interacting with people. And after a long time, after years, that can really start to take a toll on you. I started the website several years back and just wrote a few blog posts, and I started getting some interaction, some emails. Over time, people started commenting on my blog posts, which at the time I thought was super cool. I was just interested in doing something online, and lo and behold, this is where we're at, and this is what it's become. I think it's really cool. It's one, it provides some of that camaraderie for me. I do love working with new traders and helping people become successful. But even for me, it's a learning experience. Even when we're talking in a Facebook group, I learn something almost every single day. The other day, somebody brought up about a new trading platform, was talking about it that I had never seen. So I think it can be a very positive, reinforcing environment for everybody, including myself. I do share my strategy 100%. There's no bullshit here. I don't hold anything back. And a lot of people may think that's crazy, but ultimately, the markets I trade are extremely liquid. None of us on our own are going to have any, long-term impact on the price or the movement of a market. I almost think and believe that probably the more people trading my system, it's probably even the better. But everything that I'm going to teach you in this course, any questions you have, I hold nothing back. I'm an open book, and you're going to get an honest answer from me every time. Next thing I want to bring up and warn you on is the education loop. It's something that I've seen happen countless times throughout training people throughout my career. And what happens, especially with newer traders, is they get into trading unprepared. They will lose money and they blame it on their system or needing more education. So they scrap their system, go back and try to find a new system, and read more books, educate themselves more, which all can be a good thing. But ultimately what they do is they never step back and place the blame on themselves or their failure in executing trades and following a trade plan. It's your fault. If you should already know when you begin trading that you have an edge. You should have back tested your system. Not should you have back tested it, you should have sim traded it to know that it's working in a live environment. And then when you do go live, you should be trading a really small account because now emotions are involved. And it's going to take you some time to learn how to get through those and to become a profitable trader. So typically what will happen is they blame it on their strategy or lack of education, And so they scrap a system and then they go back and start to re-educate themselves, come up with a new strategy, when ultimately they're not really focusing on what is going to determine their success or failure as a trader, which is pretty much 80% of it is psychology. So avoid doing that. If you want to get into some books, I have a post on the site about some good books to read, but I would minimize it while you're taking this course. And then moving forward, read one book a month, take notes on it, and take away a few key notes that you try to implement in your life and focus on it for that month. It's what I do every single month. I read one new book. Most of them, are trading related, but I read a lot of psychology stuff too. And I'll read that book in the first week of the month or the second week. By the end of the second week, I'll take good notes on it, and then I really force on implementing whatever I learned in that book into my daily life or into my trading, whatever it might be. Next is how to increase your odds for success. I'm laying out everything here for you in this course. To increase your odds for success, do every single class and don't skip any classes, and don't move on to a class until you've completely comprehended the information that we're discussing. Everybody's going to be at different points when they come into this course. Some of you may have traded for years, some of you may be brand new. So just make sure that you really take the information and let it sink in, understand it. And I have some very set, strict guidelines of what I believe you should follow that will increase your odds for success. And it's not just something that I pull out of my ass. These are things that I've seen drastically help improve traders or their outcomes, their success or failure over the years and throughout my trading. Next, you need to set some realistic expectations. Next week, I highly doubt you're going to be making a ton of money trading my system. It's just not how trading works. It's like any other business. You wouldn't go to Barnes and Noble and buy a book on brain surgery or, a neurology book and think that you can go perform surgery on somebody's brain next week. Why people think that trading is any different, I have no clue. You're competing in one of the, most competitive industries in the world with some of the most brilliant minds. Ultimately, you're only competing against yourself, but it is a very competitive industry. When I started at Great Point, I think it was something like 2 months before I even started trading a live account. And once we went live, I was only trading 100 shares at a time. And that's trading full time for 2 months until I showed that I had profitability. So set realistic expectations. Being a trader is extremely hard work. That's a misconception with a lot of people, that they think that, you just have this guaranteed strategy and you press buttons all day and make money, and then you go off and fly in your jet and do whatever you want. But that's not it. Every trader I've ever known that's successful, especially over the long run, is an extremely hard worker, harder worker than anybody else I've ever seen. So put in the effort, and if you do so, I'm confident that you're going to get to where you want to be with your trading. But ultimately, this is all up to you. So that's it for the quick intro here. We'll see you in the next lesson.